So I'm gonna jumpstart this channel one more time. I've been told by Spirit to just do a little bit of Starseed out here with Thor Han Eredyon. So I'm just gonna, maybe there's a need and people need to know what's going on. I studied ufology for the better part of 5 to 6 years, and the reason why I was so interested was that because well, I was doing a lot of script manifesting when I was a kid. I was just doing, could I make some movie? The Secret just came out, right? But then as I was doing movies and TV shows, it's toys and games and things like that. What early 20 years old were obsessed about. It was back in the late 2000 era. So the Source universe started telling me that you shouldn't let the government tell you about what UFO is and just leave it at that. And just by not thinking about it, I was never really a big X-File fan, so I wasn't that into them, ufology and everything that I was into was just super cartoony stuff, which is artists. And then but then because I was told off that I wasn't really thinking too much about what the government narrative was telling me. I started asking questions. Okay, fine. What's actually going on with the alien things? And I had never been abducted. I don't get exposed to alien. Well, I'm sure back in the day, in the 90s, the X Files and the craze like that, where Fox has these alien autopsy thing going on. I just thought that so you have a show about X File and aliens, and then you have a documentary about autopsy. And nobody actually believe it. You're just you trying to sell a show, When I was a kid, I was obsessed watching things like Reboot and things like that. And I was probably a little bit into Star Trek. Started to become a Star Trek fan. Oh, no, I didn't think it was too sharpy. I thought it was interesting in the 90s. Next Generation was the craze. It was the best thing on TV, and then it was like 90210, and then it's like Baywatch. But then the real jewel of television was Star Trek, right? So Trek was more my thing, but then with things like ufology, right? You have a lot of outliner people who doesn't understand these the influence that is going around with ufology is that Trek itself is actually a soft disclosure event, and then you hear all these things about the Galactic Federation. There's an Israel, person, military person, who just end of life was like saying, oh yeah, there's a Galactic Federation out there. It's like what, like Star Trek, and most of the time, most Trekkie who watches Star Trek was a fan of Star Trek. You never associate the Federation with, in the fiction, with real ufology, right? Okay, real ufology, there's the Bantus being, maybe sometimes there's the occasional lizard people, but mostly it's just like gray alien in X File of it, right? You don't think about it, but after 6 years of studying, the real material is that it's just a soft disclosure. Star Trek is a soft disclosure, and then deliberately someone went off the way to deliberately tell you that there's something like it in the real world, and try to accumulate people and soften them up to the eventual disclosure. So that's what it is. So that's what I learned. The reason why I'm so interested was that, so I have to go back to me script manifesting. I always said that once in my other channel, but I'm gonna say it again here. Where I'm script manifesting, and I ran with the universe a bunch of people that were channeling aliens, and some of them were channeling their own soul group, and then their own star family, and then you get very kind of results. Alright, channeling is hit or miss. Sometimes the receptor, the didn't wake up properly the whole night, you didn't do any meditation, you start hearing other different voices. It's you're hearing spirit speak. If you channel your own star family, it's supposed to be a little bit safer, apparently. But then if you just on the loose, like those channel freaks, you're gonna summon entity and things like that, right? Exactly what a few senator, the Christian senator, was telling you. Oh, no, I think you're summoning some kind of weird entity, man, and that's also true. So there was one of the way to probe what was out there in the stars, right? But then I started refining the whole idea that it doesn't really it isn't all that accurate. A lot of channelers they come back and they start talking weird things like, oh, the Elohim is back, and it's some weird made up name that they drummed up, and most channeling psychic are just gonna make up completely BS names that. Yeah, so where's your credibility at the end of the day? There is some successes. They could pin some accuracy, but then where's the final, point of reference where this person is credible, right? So then came the idea that I was talking to Source and Universe and asking script manifesting together, and yeah, we need to do. You need to run a team that is more legitimate, and so came the idea that eventually led to being Elena Danaan and Thor Han Eredyon, and then Thor Han Eredyon is just a concurrent lifetime of myself. I know about this as I was scripting it, because why don't I do it myself? One of my lifetime do it myself. It's just somewhere in my consciousness. I'm like, okay, I'll take this task on. Just asking a question like what is going on there in the stars. So Thor Han and Elena Danaan came on the scene, and I was just waiting for them to come on. I scripted so many movie and TV show, and they all came about. It's just script manifesting. Yeah, it's doing the secret thing. So I knew who they are. I knew that they were gonna come about in a certain time period, and then that's why I've been so interested, because that's a lifetime of myself. When I was script manifesting, I could not comprehend what the 5D frequency is, right? Sometimes if you're not first into the conscious science, the physicist conscious science, you don't think that conscious frequency and the fifth density, things like that, is any if there's any new age relevance to it. But I studied the latest conscious science so much that yeah, it's just a real thing. We're all shifting into the 5D frequency. It's a science. It's not a new age hack. And that's seems to be important, because as people shift into the 5D frequency, it becomes harder for people in power to control you, and then you have the elite acting out, and then the elite not only is acting out, but they're desperate. Like, oh no, we're gonna lose our power. People are waking up, dumb them down, and then you get all these chemtrails and things like that, in an effort to put people in check, and then dumb people down that way. And then they really want the power, and they were really gripped by the power. I'm not going into too much of that, but then the story with ufology about the Orion War, a little bit Star Wars looking. It's very real, and then it's George Lucas Star Wars, and the Elena Danaan. They keep talking about this Orion War or Orion Rebel faction that they were in. They call themselves the what was it? The Black League. So you have Darth Vader. He's all wearing all black. Well, the Orion Soul Group cluster, they're just obsessed playing around with black frequency and thought frequency and about power. And then studying people's past lives, and they see a lot of serial killer loop where they're killing one another across lifetime. You kill me, I kill you, kind of thing, and they keep going. And then it became very, very clear that in this Salla scene, there's just a very haywire element where there's invasive empire in a ufology where every abductee that undesirable abduction, you know that they're invasive and they're just into power, some kind of dark empire power, and why is it matching the Star Wars, and it's because George Lucas soul originated from the same area where these dark empire came from. So you see a lot of coinciding where he's echoing the song of the enemies and the habits of the enemies. And so there's a whole clear connective dots there. And apparently my soul is Natalie Portman. So there's a soul relationship between my soul and then George Lucas soul, and then come around, and then Elena Danaan soul, and then they're all kind of connected. Yeah. You see now Natalie Portman character Padme, right? She's wearing blue, and then Thor Han Eredyon from the Galactic Federation is wearing blue. There's a soul memory there of how a soul kind of inhabit a certain role and certain faction of the stellar scenes. And then the Galactic Federation world, like a Star Trek Federation, they wear blue. But it's just no. They yeah. And then the Orion, they like their black, so Darth Vader black. And that's a very much a soul memory thing from George Lucas. It kind of call it out, like, oh, you're supposed to be this person, and you're supposed to be that person, kind of like. So we're swimming around with creation connectivity and its influences, right? So you not only get a whole group soul cluster that are legitimately psychopaths and will try to take from you and try to do the worst kind of thing possible. But you also get a group like the Federation, where it's prime directive and we're legal and we're spiritual. Like you see all the 1950, the Palladian, the Venus people came and tell people you shouldn't go to war and things like that. You get those very spiritual people. I'm learning very quickly that you should not look to a source as a replacement of a divine relationship. That the stellar are not very clear and they don't quite understand what divinity is, but they're trying to use the spirituality and the aspect of the consciousness and try to explain away divinity. But it never sated us. If Atlantis knew what divinity was and the divine relationship was, that is important to man and what we actually crave for, we wouldn't end up here after the fall of Atlantis and then be all Christian and looking for God, you know. If it was all resolved, it isn't resolved. But Atlantis was very good with recognizing their spirit state, where we now only have science about the consciousness, about how the spiritual aspect, a vehicle of action that is energy and thought frequencies and energy, and we can create with thoughts. And then if you look at the only planet of choice, a book that I asked Source for, specifically asking what consciousness is, the 9 under Source is a real group of entity, and they aren't some kind of alien group. They just the manager under Source. They're like a in Marvel comic. There's a character called the Living Tribunal under the One Above All. Right? So you have these big cosmic power that manages the whole of the multiverses and things like that, right? Well, the 9 is basically the Living Tribunal directly under the One Above All. And even the One Above All isn't your God replacement, okay? So I've been listening to Elena Danaan. She started telling people that should know what divinity is. Don't go by her when it comes to divinity. Don't go by interstellar confederation when they talk about divinity, because if a soul know and have more knowledge about divinity than you, and you start listening, you're in trouble. That doesn't make any sense. Spirituality can be learned from another soul. Your spiritual aspect and your spiritual togetherness that the stellar people are, when we develop and we evolve into it, you can learn from them that way. You can learn about the spirit state. But don't try to do that with your divinity, because as I was during the script manifesting, I talked to Source and I asked everything, right? The dumb kid asking everything. Source left room for me to discover my divine relationship, and anyone that contradict that don't know what they're talking about when they don't. And then so by not leaving room for a soul to discover their own divine relation, then they're making a mistake and they have no idea what they're talking about. And so I already talked about this a whole bunch on my Rumble account, but I'll say it again here. There's a limit to what you can get out of these star people, and most of the time people, I discover alien, the first thing you want to ask them, do you believe in God? Or do you believe in the God that I believe in? Or things like that, right? They're gonna start telling you that they believe something about the source, but I'm just telling you that even source is enough to replace your divine relations. You're not gonna find it from another soul. Don't try to find the answer. Don't try to let someone else give you the answer. And that's what Source taught me. And that's more reasonable. The stars see, some of them a little more sensible, but then Elena Danaan isn't one of them. It's just gonna straight up start telling you that Source is divine, and then they start talking about there's no separation. But I'm just asking, so what? The consciousness is always energetically looped in and connected to everything else. So your conscious existential state is oneness. So that means you should be careful how you think, how you manifest your thoughts, because it has an energetic pull to rope other people in. So if you're not consciously evolved, let's say the third world country, and you're bitching all the time, and dog eat dog world, and you're angry all the time, then that energy, because consciousness is energy, and it loop other people in, and it's infectious enough that it may even ripple to the other side of the planet, and then condition someone to be even more angry. Then you can then manage recognizing that this is the conscious reality, to hold your thought in better regards. That is what it is. And being able to recognize what the existential conscious state do, and then manage it, and then treat yourself with conduct, becoming, is a very powerful thing. And that is what Source spirituality can get you. It get you your recognition of all these things, and then you. But divinity goes beyond all this recognition of oneness. It goes into why it is so love. It goes into the reason why you choose to love. And when you're stating that everything is just of oneness, you're stating the conscious existential reality, but you fail to explain your reason. Alright? There's no reason to the spiritual state other than that is what you're supposed to do. That there's a ruling, you have to look out for one another. But do you have the will to love? And then the thing I figured out is that you have to go beyond the oneness to your divine relationship, and the relationship depth beyond the oneness that is within yourself. and not part of the spiritual oneness, the deeper meaning of your own significance and your divine relationship. And divinity comes into divinity. Start and begin with love. Always, divinity is not one. Divinity is two. So contradicting this whole over on on oneness and the conscious layer and the conscious mind being totality one. So what? Well, after you finish saying these things, does it help you love better? It's rather dry, and the reason why it's dry is because you are a soul who have yet to figure it out, to look beyond what the science observable, because consciousness is observable by stellar technology. You can see the energy, you can discern that source itself is consciousness, and then the stellar power, intellectualism, scientific, beyond the age of beliefs, they're gonna go by everything that they can observe and study and evidence base. But then so what? Since when there's a divinity, the reason to love is that is purely observable, right? You gotta leave a little bit of mystery to in matter of divinity, and sometimes Stellar don't do that. Sometimes Stellar don't know to do that. You gotta understand the difference between a backwater planet like ours, where we still have religion and idols, and then you have a stellar Sith where they're going only by evidence based. But then how far does it actually resolve the divine problem, right? Do they have all the answers, So and they don't, and you need to leave room for that discovery for yourself. So that's what I've been discovered. But they're very, very good with the spirituality, right? So the spirituality aspect is why is spirituality important? Why do I care? Or I'm a big fan of something called Warhammer 40K, and there's a group called the Grey Knight, and they fight chaos demons, and the Grey Knight use some kind of spiritual, let's just call it high frequency spiritual ira or something like that, where the spiritual integrity is so strong that they are made incorruptible. Then it's just a paladin, spiritual paladin. You go Dungeons and Dragons, it's a spiritual cleric paladin class. It's just fighting. I gravitate toward that, and since I have a lifetime as these stellar spiritual people, you get to see where my mind is coming from, right? The Palladian are often spiritual. They're not too spiritual. Thor Han and his people were more militaristic than they're spiritual. It appears after 6 years of stellar study that the really, really spiritual people, the really Jedi looking, and then the beyond technology kind of spiritual people, they're much older Siths. They're much more mature, where you have younger intermediate. Let's say the Galactic Federation of worlds is kind of like an intermediate world where they're kind of relatable. They're not too alienating in terms of the way they think. When they send their probe out, it's a metallic orb. The technology isn't too fantastical, where it can't comprehend. Where the interstellar, I saw the interstellar probe once, and they were leaving. They were coming to my house, my room, and there was there was a little bit of a camera eye in the middle. There was doing emoji dance, and it's a friendly, right? And I knew that at the time when I saw the interstellar plasma orb thing, I only saw the interstellar plasma orb thing. I never made direct contact with Thor Han, but I know, I know he's there enough. Apparently, people were seeing both the metallic and the plasma orb, and the plasma orb is like a technology that is, these are interstellar Sith, and then they're basically out there that is almost incomprehensible to us. So if and the technologically going to be we're out there, and spirituality is a science of it, apparently in the stars. So comparably, you can then reason by the technology about the spiritual science and how far they come along. And although it cannot help state the human divine questions, spirituality appear to be very, very important in and of itself, without the need to convolute it with divine value, because you have a spiritual state, you need to own that spiritual state. It's a responsibility to develop it. You see all the what is it? Past life regression, something. What else? Remote viewers, yeah. And you just imagine what these people who are that aware of their spirituality, how far can they take with what they have to work with. And one of the neat thing I found out about the value of spirituality is that they learn to spiritually transmute energy rather than shut it off entirely. If you shut off your emotions, you're gonna blow up somewhere, and they learn to transmute it. You learn to transmute existing energy and make it channel it, make it into something else. So that's been very powerful in understanding how to self-manage oneself. Bottle up all the time wouldn't do anybody any good, and that's basically what spirituality can do for you, for the sake of self-awareness, just for the sake of self-awareness. And I don't think you should put too much of a spiritual lingo behind it about I was a Christian once, right? And I'm worried also of these new age gimmick. And if you can discard the unwholesome new age idea and just look at, well, why would these solstices who are much older than us keep on hacking away this spiritual aspect there? Like, what was I thinking compared to what they think, and what kind of value can you really get out of it? And it's just you're very self-aware of yourself, and and the weight and goal behind that. Self-responsibility, self-knowledge into the spirit state is very good. It's very good. Oh, so in understanding what the star people can teach you, don't make too much out of it. Don't start asking another soul, oh, where is God? Do you believe the God I believe? Like, don't waste time validating the kind of. It's not an open conversation, But the spiritual question is very, very good. I'm beginning to learn that it's very, very, very awesome. Okay, let's say the mundane thing like porn, right? Pornography. The 5D people, they don't watch porn. They're saying, oh yeah, we don't do that. Thor Han and his people, they also what is it? Oh yeah, sex. If there's no love involved in sex, right? These Bonnie Blue and only fans people who hog over the less than becoming aspect, right? They don't do that, and then you translate that to the demonic exorcism, Catholic priest, and then it's just a possession, and then all these things. Well, how do they start possessing people? How do they start negatively impacting people's lives? Pornography, the demonic spirit will start telling you, why am I allowed to mess with you right now? It's your pornography, right? So then you put the two together, and you realize the more spiritually evolved people don't do that. But here we're still thinking, what the heck is consciousness? Why is something manifesting at all, right? We're only beginning to have a very basic understanding about these spiritual value and these spiritual aspect. In the 90s, scientists were still debating whether consciousness were materialistic, whether all of your being were just stuff of your brain matter. Without your body, you're nothing. No. Gene Roddenberry of Star Trek, right? He was a devout atheist. All the afterlife episode in Star Trek will tell you when a character die, nothing, pitch black. You're just your body, right? Nothing else. Stark contrast to this of the Real Federation is that they believe in consciousness, they believe you're the spiritual state that, beyond life, and then all these kids come back like past life regression in World War II start to make sense, right? They start to match the real evidence-based science and what people recounting that they're seeing, and that is just spirituality, right? And it's just that simple. It just is what is, and it has been always what is all along, and then that's what it is. Karma is incredibly real. Karma is incredibly real. So when they started stating that we're all one, they're really tapping into the idea that spiritually, you have to use the mind and check yourself and your action toward one another, because you all come back to yourself. So you kind of know where they're coming from whenever they say the word that we're all one, and all that is that they're stating just the spiritual reality of existence. So don't think too deep about it, but that there's a recognition that's karma, spirituality, and then karma is real within the oneness of it all. Yeah, that's what it is. And there's in all these recognition of simple truth, there's a lot of power, because on Earth you have a lot of scientists who are just very blind to it all, or you have more developed civ, and then they just say it with conviction and then confidence, and then scientific study of all these constants that we already know that there's truth to it, but then they tell it to you with a lot more certainty and more scientific level-headed certainty, and then that's one of the ways where I got off the whole idea of do I still have to debate with atheists and then religious people about whether God is real or not? Well, you kind of remove yourself from that equation of what people are thinking on the ground side. I just have a little bit more level-headed certainty about where things that really is important. That way. But there's a very simple truth. This spiritual oneness and karma is very real. I'm a fan of a guy who named Kevin Trudeau. He got jailed a couple of years for outing about the secret society things. I study enough of secret society to know that the guy's up and up, and so he is very aware of how to manifest. So I'm pulling all these ideas about how I can bring the stolen information from all these alien stuff and try to apply it on Earth, right? Well, apparently secret society on Earth have been keeping these secret knowledge like Templar Order, and you see all the Assassin's Creed, and then they're chasing after the apple, piece of Eden apple, and there's nothing they keep more secret just to hold on to power than the fact that they know a way to work their consciousness, and they recognize that their consciousness manifests, right? But they like for the rest of the world to be illiterate to the fact, and they much like the old days, where you have European serfs, peasantry, and then you have the noble houses, and they're just trying to keep their power to be nobles, and they want to be very literate about the way of the conscious manifest. And you see all these conscious scientists on YouTube, the clips about conscious scientists just being offed. It's just like the people in power doesn't like that kind of thing. So accumulation has been very difficult, I think, just because you're not taught on Earth how to work that knowledge into your game, you know. Where you have a guy like Kevin Trudeau, he's a wealth guru, but yeah, he's legit in knowing these things, and then he's telling people. That's been helpful, because uh, even though you're studying what was this alien, stellar people were talking about spirituality and then manifestation, you haven't really put in your own words about why you're doing the things you're doing. Yeah, the mental mindset of it, or at least not the human side of it. These people are from another planet. They have a completely different history and culture. So being able to have a guy that put these words into our own language, and then you do it yourself, has been very helpful. Encourage people to go check him out. Amongst the Starseed, there hasn't been a lot of amongst the Starseeds, there haven't been a lot of legitimacy. Most of the Galactic Federation of Light people from Twitter and things like that, with a lot of scam, can be spotted quite easily. But only if you know where to look for Elizabeth April, who is quite popular with the grey alien thing going on. She's thoroughly deceptive and invasive, and that is very easy to spot. But that is only easy to spot if you hit the jackpot and you are actually with the right people, and you know where the correct point reference is. If you don't know, if you haven't dig deep enough in your outliner, oftentimes this information agent kind of front block you, but then they also have messages that's rather nice. And let's say you're not as motivated about the euphoric element, you're not as invested. Well, I actually ran teams when I try to discover a question, and one of myself is doing the work. And so it's easier for me motive wise to look a little bit deeper. Or if you're lacking all these things and you're not as deep in you have a 9 to 5 job, you have other things to do, you have different hobbies, you have different interests, then there are a lot of the time these people are gonna front load you with nonsense. And so I'm going out of my way here on this clip. The Galactic Federation is the only one, and there's only like one emissary. And then the Elena Danaan. There's another Starseed tagged on her called let me see. Her name is Abigail. I'll post her link so you know that to look for her. And she's the only other. The Grounded Starseed, her YouTube channel is the Grounded Starseed. And she's the only other subgroup of Starseed that is recognized as legit. Yeah. Okay. So let me go over Elena Danaan a little bit deeper, right? So as I started out, I was saying how channeling didn't work. Channeling was too new age entity fringe. So Elena Danaan, after the setup, the asked Source about we need something more legitimate. There must have been a life plan of some kind where she's chipped in, and this by technology, okay? How she came about with the chip implant was not my decision, but I'm just saying that I always knew she was gonna come in with technology, right? With hot technology. So there should be some kind of life plan thing going on. It's not by happenstance. So that's one of the things that I knew about her prior to, and that's what it is. And yeah. So she's legit in that sense. Yeah. And the reason I can back up these claims is because yeah, I script manifested so many things that I know how hard how truthful one project is, because I ran it myself. I'll show you some of my movie manifestation. I manifested weird things like the Hunger Games, Breaking Bad, and I was super into drama and TV shows, and I knew that I put the best drama Emmy award winning teams at Breaking Bad. Along Breaking Bad, I manifested a cartoon show called Ben 10, and then you see the RV. The RV is double from the Ben 10 series to the Breaking Bad series, and there's just a little authorship note. I was like, I'm gonna script everything. I might as well put a little signature in there. So Ben 10 RV and then Breaking Bad RV. I put the okay. Going back to the whole X-File thing, I was never X-File fan, but I figure, they've been around for decades. They've been professional in their work ethics. So why just script one of the best TV show, and then let the team who is very professional about what they do, and just execute my story that way. Breaking Bad was fun because unlike the X-File, which is back in the 90s, where it is non continuous, every episode is a standalone episode list like Star Trek. I was like, I'll just do a whole continuous story, because I also knew that things like Netflix and streaming services are gonna inevitably come about, and there's something called binging, and I want to captivate audience. The internet is gonna promote binging or something of that sort. Anyway, I knew that Blockbuster was gonna go out of the business. It's very obvious to see in the late 2000s. So and we're like, oh, I'm over it. I'm gonna do a whole continuous story, and it's wonderful. But it's only wonderful because the team had decades of experience. I'm trying to do these video AI story, right? And I'm a better storyteller than I am the executioner. And for the whole year and a half, I could not do it myself because I just don't have the necessary skill. I could still script a better story than most. I like to think. Yeah, but I suck at execution, and that's what I'm learning. I'm admiring the skills of a director, honestly. But before I drift too hard with my own artistry and fancraft, I just want to come back and say, so these are my known factors of script manifesting, right? So I know when something is very, very high quality and is top of the games, okay? I scripted in the movies and TV shows some of the best artistry around. Breaking Bad winning all the Emmy or Ben 10. You have an entire generation of kids who love the Ben 10 series, and I have a whole bunch of others too. But I ran so many projects that I immediately know when something that I did was legit or not. Okay, so Elena Danaan is very legit in that sense. And her ship implants no lie, and Thor Han as people is probably very real, and so they have an extra leg in understanding that to know who to spot that way, but also because in a way I ran the team to begin with. I was asking Source about it to begin, so I know his legitimacy better than most. Where if you're on the outside looking in, you wouldn't think. Or with so many disinformation and fluffers out there, you wouldn't know what to look for as easily. Well, I could basically, I know that movie is gonna come out great because I set the team up to make it. So there's a little bit behind the scene thing going on, a little more depth of knowledge, and so I'm just sharing my all here. Elena Danaan recently have been a little bit isolated because of Michael Salla and Dani Henderson have some kind of drama thing going on with Elena Danaan. I don't exactly know what's going on. I've been off Twitter for a few months, and can't seem to catch up to the latest almost gossip or whatever. But then Michael Salla, after being poisoned going to conference and started hot decking into the Galactic Federation of Light and started talking about how the Galactic Federation of Light is real. And then one of the contact significant person in Elena Danaan circle, the Anunnaki Ea, Prince Ea, who is the Enki character, made a Star Nation news, I think. It was basically trying to tell people, oh, there is no Galactic Federation of Light there. But then I think with Michael Salla, there's a bit of a belief system conflict where he's chasing after this belief, right? So he's skewing a lot of perspective about what actually is real, because in full perspective, the people in the stars who are friendly are telling you that these things doesn't exist, but he's still chasing it. So he's chasing it with a whole bunch of MK Ultra individual, and the MK Ultra individual, you can spot their lies so easily, where they deliberately try to validate complete nonsensical people and tell you, oh, these people, what they say is really, really true and completely real. Bullshit. A lot of people who are watching Michael Salla can spot the MK Ultra mind control victim right off the bat, because you've been following the legit people. You know the hallmark, right? But then what Michael Salla is refusing to see it. And he's going after this Galactic Federation of Light, and the guy who is one of the main Galactic Federation of Light YouTube channel content creator, he interviewed the guy. He's some kind of Buddhist monk. And he started drifting off and telling you that the hell is real, that the Christian Bible and the hell is real, and then he started to understand just how legitimate the person is, right? It's been going on for months and months, Michael Salla. And okay, the reason why I'm making this clip here is because if I started out now, and you have the Dani Henderson, Michael Salla fallout, you're never gonna discover what the real group is, because there's so many people that just bury everything and they have their own little belief and narrative thing going on. Dani Henderson, I thought she was a little bit better, made a sterner stuff. She had a very traumatic experience as a younger woman, where her first husband, who loved her very dearly, had a heart attack, and then he passed. I think there's some kind of emotional chip there, or then he started to crip, and that's very obvious to see. So she's making money with her GSIC conference, and then I just think that the old scar wounds, and then it's just coming back. And then now she's gripping hard on money, It's just that lack and that injury is coming back and flaring a bit and making things a little bit difficult. So that's understandable. Everybody is a human being, emotional being, emotional chip. You're gonna, But yeah, one of the latest clip with Dani Henderson, she start talking about Elena Danaan, and then she start saying things like, oh man, like oh yeah, if you can send spaceships fly by over to my convent, dude, that is a trick, man. You gotta keep doing that. And then so Elena had a big falling out because she doesn't feel like she want to do it that time, and it's clearly Dani, what her priority is, and she just start outing herself and say, oh, I'm obsessed with this idea of the ships flying by. I want another one. Yeah, she just basically a whole hour clip where she did interview with Michael Salla. It says, I want more ship flying by my conference. And she's not even a very good liar, where she's just trying to paint a different narrative about herself. So I mean, I hope these people they get their little issues resolved, because I've been following them for years. It's sad to see the team or whatnot now have a little scattershot falling out. I wasn't gonna say anything, but since now that it made it so difficult for a newcomer to come in and orientate themselves between what is real, I'm just telling you straight. just a little bit insider knowledge on my end. I'm very, very confident who Thor Han is. I don't have any doubt whatsoever. I scripted so many things, and everything is exactly what I deemed as. But by the thousands, I scripted when I was a little kid, gun ho. I know in and out every project that I ran in a way with script manifesting intention, creating these things that no doubt in my mind that Thor Han is just another lifetime of myself. So, yeah. So yeah, it is easier on my end than other people. I should say something about it. I don't know if I'm very convincing or if I give you all the necessary intel, details, so you get the grasp, you get a grasp of my legitimacy. But okay, I'll show you one thing about Elena Danaan and my connection to her, right? Since I'm just a story script manifester, right? There's a let me see. Let me see what I can tell you here. That's appropriate. I script manifested for a couple of lifetime of Elena Danaan, who is just actors. Right? I don't know if any one of them is a bit too private or not. And I script manifested for her like acting lifetime. Many TV gigs and many story are. One of them is Leah Mitchell. We're just gonna give you one. Leah Mitchell is another lifetime of Elena Danaan. And maybe I'll just give you one and let me see. Yeah. I don't want to go into too much of these past life because it's kind of like a private thing. Yeah. Yeah. If I go too deep, it's not quite appropriate. But this is just. Oh yeah, I'm not gonna go too deep into it. But yeah, I know clearly who she is across lifetime. So yeah, so doubly so that there's no doubt in my mind that Thor Han is just me. The soul relation is very, very clear. Yeah. That's all I'm gonna. It's rushing about 52 minutes, so I'll probably need to close this down soon. Let me see if there's anything more I want to add to it. I don't know if there's too much I can say about all that's already contributing. Been doing some video AI to try to tell people that these Galactic Federation and Nordic aliens are real. Try to do some disinformation dislodging here. But I'm still very sucky about actual execution, so we'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll post something here. Yeah. Let me see. It is possible to summon demons simply by watching horror movies. It is possible to thought manifest simply by holding the thoughts in place and then keep tapping the energetic blueprint and making it manifest. It is very possible, and it is a human conscious matrix thing. And apparently the reptilian they cannot manifest this way. That is uniquely a human consciousness thing, and it is in the spiritual matrix blueprint. The alien, having taken over the Hollywood industry, are actively bombarding people with horror, fear, news media, legacy media, everything but gun violence, everything but crime and drama, and so the whole propaganda. You see what Disney film, every film a family member always dies, they want to precondition you till you lose something, those Satanists. And their game is because they force you to hold a thought, it helps you manifest and create it. And I'm still coming to terms with the whole idea that where you can think your way to making things happen, like what? But that is what is happening. You go back to Secret Brotherhood Society, people like Kelvin Trudeau, he's working, he's safeguarding what he holds in his mind. He's conditioning himself to emotionally control himself just because consciously that is how the human spiritual conscious matrix works. And and so be doubly alert to the whole idea of messages about fear. Elizabeth April is always going to start telling you that the sun is about to explode. I don't know what she's saying, but everything she says is just a big fear hack job. And then the next thing she's gonna have some soothsaying thing, like, and then just being a pretty blonde girl, and then and so they're trying to work your angle. Great aliens have this thing. I ran a project called Neo Automata, and then I ran another project called Westworld, and they're both enemies. The Epstein class, and then the elites, the Davos group that everybody knows by now, the WF, is part of those people. And then the reason why I ran it was because I did not understand why Hollywood keep promoting this psychopathy, why certain anime porn started murder and freaking out. And then there's a spiritual aspect that I did not understand, so I'm digging for it. Why don't you talk more, so I can discover what you're about? And so I isolate these enemies project just to have them mouth themselves off so I can study their tact. Alright? So there's also one of the insider knowledge here, where I knew these people were trouble, and the two projects, New Automata and Westworld, they both have humanity dying replaced by robots. Okay, that is the legitimacy of my script manifesting, where I am always able to home in on a particular group, help them create something. Okay? And the message is cohesively rotten, and the agenda is one and the same. They want to replace humanity with robots. And then Elena Danaan, you go back to Elena Danaan, the great alien, the empire has been destroyed, but before they were being destroyed, they were about to invade us with a pocket dimension filled with a giant fleet, and the giant fleet were filled with nothing but new automata Yohai robots, or the Westworld host robot, whatever you like to call it. They have the whole invasion sequence all set up with their media to help bombard humanity, to making it a reality. The great aliens are always intellectually technical. They're not very emotional enough. They're invasive. They want to take things from you. And so they're edging and trying to find a way, and it's too intellectual about what they're doing, and they fail to realize that we're on to them. Humanity have multi-dimensional awareness. Someone made script the film, TV series Star Trek Voyager Endgame, where the Borg Queen was destroyed by a virus, and we were actively, there's a need where I gotta script manifest the destruction of the Borg Queen. That's what happened in the Elena Danaan material, right? That episode of Voyager Endgame came at the very last finale episode, where the Borg Queen got virus bombed and she got destroyed, right? That is what happened to the Nipple Hive queen. They have a queen too, and we knew we had to get it done. So, have some multi-dimensional awareness of yourself. Everybody can remote viewing apparently. Just go about your day, using your intuitive mind and your intuitive awareness a little bit more. I'm gonna close this down here. It's gonna be an hour. Hope I didn't too confusing or too convoluted or anything like that. All right, that's it. Thank you for listening.